You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com. And now, it's time for the show that breaks down the options market from unusual activity alerts to market analysis, strategy overviews, listener questions, and much more. If it involves puts and calls, then our all-star panel will break it down. It's time to hit the Option Block with your host, Mark Longo from the Options Insider Media Group, and co-hosts, Uncle Mike Tosaw from St. Charles Wealth Management, along with Mark the Greasy Meatball Sebastian and Andrew the Rock Lobster Giovinazzi from OptionPit.com. And now, get ready to hit the Option Block.
All right, everybody. That music means we are back. It is Monday, time to commence another broadcast week here on the Options Insider Radio Network. Hope you're rested up and raring to go. Markets are certainly raring to go. We'll get there in a second. My name, of course, Mark Longo from theoptionsinsider.com. Reminding you, great stuff. Again, if you missed that Vol death match, that was some awesome stuff. I'm still laughing about it almost a week later. It was wild stuff. Theoptionsinsider.com/pro is the place to go to check that out, as well as, of course, Options Oddities. What were we up to at the end of the week? What kind of unusual activity was on our tape? It was crazy. We might have slung some Hellcats on Friday. What the hell does that mean? We got to tune into Oddities to find out. Pro Q&A coming up this week. If you like Vol, you like the Vol death match from last week, we'll have our good buddy Scott Nations joining us tomorrow. Get over there. Theoptionsinsider.com/pro is the place to go, where you too can play along with all of that fun. As we see who's playing along with us today, will it be fun for them or will it not? I don't know. It's Uncle Mike Tosaw from St. Charles Wealth Management, as well as the rockingest of lobsters, Mr. Andrew Giovinazzi from OptionPit.com. I introduce them now, listeners, because they are focused. They are heated. I'm looking at Andrew. He is primed and ready to go. His finger on the button, because it's that time, listeners. It's time for the 80s Trivia Challenge. Here we go. All right, listeners. Before the show, I had the producers update the standings. And I will say, not looking good for Uncle Mike right now. Andrew running away with it as we're coming into the midpoint of the year. 6.5 points for the Rock Lobster. Uncle Mike, a distant second, only 3.5 points, has not scored a full point since March 17th. So almost exactly 3 months. He has not scored a point. He got 1/2 point in there pretty much since then, but that's about it. So Uncle Mike on quite the mother of all droughts. And then bringing up the rare good old Dan Passarelli. 1 appearance only, but he scored a point. So he's on the board there. All right, listeners. Let's see if Uncle Mike...
like that.
Yeah, Andrew's excited. Now he's ready to go. I have the official card in my hand. Listeners selected and scanned to make sure that no, we haven't asked this one before and no questions on this have been asked. So, Mr. Uncle Mike, what you going for today, sir? What color?
Still got to do sports and leisure. Maybe I can get something besides figure skating.
Okay. Yeah, Rock Lobster still just reveling in his glory of Peggy Fleming from last week. That was a moment of triumph for Rock Lobster, if ever there was. By the way, our chat's on your side, Uncle Mike. Now they're cheering for you. They're saying, if only for pity. You need a win, so you're getting some pity cheers in our chat.
I'm the people's champ.
Crushed. Tell all those chat people they can go to you know what.
I'm the people's champ.
How quickly they turn.
Fair weather friends.
See, Rock Lobster, you used to be the one who got all the pity love. Now the pity has turned towards Uncle Mike. So, man, the worm has turned here in the year of our Lord 2025. All right, what do we got here? We got orange. Okay, who meets at World Jamborees?
Buzz.
Go ahead.
The Boy Scouts.
Yeah, this one's pretty easy. This is Boy Scouts. This one technically says Scouts and Guides, so I guess they mean Indian Guides. Is that what that Guides is? But Boy Scouts is the answer, yes. I will give you the good job, Mr. Rock.
How's that sport? Is that leisure?
I guess that's leisure. I thought that was a strange one too, but hey, you chose the category.
World Jamborees.
1 point for Boy Scouts. Meeting at...
No wonder no one ever plays Trivial Pursuit anymore. These are dumb questions.
You can look, it's going into the middle of the pack now, so that we will not choose it again for many hundreds of choices. So there we go. All right.
Oh my goodness.
Man, Mr. Uncle Mike, the drought continues. Now 7.5 to 3. You gotta score a full 4 points just to tie it up, and you haven't scored a point since March 17th. So you got some digging to do, sir.
Oh my goodness.
You might have to start boning up on the week.
You know what? I'm feeling like JJ Spawn on the back nine of the U.S. Open. Toiled in obscurity for years, and then boom, out of the gate.
Oh, here we go. You got one person in our chat saying he's on your side, Mr. Rock Lobster. So there you go. You got one fan. I think your mom's in the chat again. Mama Lobster's.
Probably my mother.
Mama Lobster's hanging out in the chat as we keep on rolling into the trading block.
It's time to break down the latest topics, trades, and trends in the world of options. It's time for the Trading Block.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Trading Block, the portion of the show where we break down what the heck is trading, what is lighting up our tape, and hey, what Middle East conflict, right? What were we saying on Friday there? We were saying, man, if past is prologue, the answer to this is fade all of these. We were talking a little bit, and we discussed it on Oddities on Friday, heading into the close there, where it seemed like things were getting a little bit spicier. The rockets were starting to rain down. We talked about maybe the potential for adding some vol upside. Ended up not doing it. Didn't seem merited, and that, of course, seems like it was the right play. Obviously, anything could still happen with this. But right now, the markets are once again whistling past all this madness out there in the Middle East. They were all up over a full percent when we kicked off the show, coming back off a little bit. S&P got up to about 60.5, almost exact. I think that actually was the exact top out there. Coming back down to about 60, 33 or 34 or so right now. Still up about 55, 56, 57 handles. They're about 1% on the day. So they are whistling past all of this, even though we got some mixed messages over the weekend about the possibility of U.S. involvement and what's going on. And then, of course, more rockets raining down. It was interesting to watch last night in the overnight session for the futures. You know, rockets were literally raining down and the futures were up. It's kind of an interesting time. So again, just goes to show that for a lot of these Middle East shocks, the right vol play is to fade it, at least in the initial move. The Dow up about 0.75%, NASDAQ up 1.5%. That's not to say things are done, though. In fact, that is the subject of our question of the week. Just went live a few minutes ago, listeners. You said, hey, the vol impact of the recent Middle East conflict already appears to be fading. Is that it? Or is this just the calm before the storm? Quite simply, will this conflict still be impacting VIX and the markets 1 month from now? Just went live a few minutes ago. Get in there and make your voice heard. We will check in on it later in the show and tell you how things are rolling. But yeah, right now, things are super green. We obviously got into a 20 handle last week in the old VIX cash, and we kicked things off today. They're at around 20.25 was the high today. Coming back off that now, 19.25 is where we're hanging out, down exactly a point from the Thursday show in VIX land. Vol still a little spicy, 106 up 4 points. Obviously, it's not the 125, 135 range it was in not too long ago, but also above the mid-80s it was hanging at not too long ago as well. Again, putting it up 4 points from where it was this time on the Thursday show. All right, as our reigning victor, still weird to say that out loud, Mr. Rock Lobster, the current man who's looking like he might take that belt from Uncle Mike. Mr. Rock Lobster, sir, what's catching your eye in yet another, at least so far, play it by the book, Middle East conflict? Sell the spike, fade the spike, and smile on Monday.
You know what? Winning doesn't get old. So much winning. There's so much winning right now.
So much Peggy Fleming.
Who you got to pull. But yep. I saw like one thing that was kind of surprising is just these way. I guess it's a metaphor for the $1 trillion a year we spend on defense, which of course Congress can't quite figure out how not to do anymore. But Iran clearly, it's a big country. They fought that Iraq war for a decade. They have a lot of resources. They got money. And like the Israelis are just kind of picking them apart. Just everything's surgical. They could basically take out all their military in the next 2 days, probably. And by extension, probably anyone running the country. So it's I think it was kind of, again, I don't know why they picked the now to do all this. Who knows? But if Iran's really not a factor in the Middle East anymore, it feel like, under Biden, whatever reason, I guess they kind of came back in the fore. And then you had that Palestinians went on the offensive. I'm just speaking like, okay, like a little bit more Mideast action than we had been used to. It seemed like it had been going down for the prior decade. And now, it came back for a while. Now I think they're trying to put the lid on it. I think overall, will that be good? Yes. But as far as, I traded floor trader through, I hate to date myself, but the first Gulf War in 1991, and the second, and then all the other things in between. Generally, when they decide to kind of go in modern warfare, I mean, the market kind of rallies after that because it's no longer uncertain. It's a certainty. They're in. And then you just deal with whatever you get. So, I mean, as far as, again, just from a strictly mercenary trading point of view, that's how it trades. I didn't get rid of all my protection on a Friday just because I wasn't sure. All my basically long vol, but I did get rid of a bunch. And now we see what, we see what happens. But if Iran is not really swinging a big club anymore, the Revolutionary Guard seems to be on their back foot. I don't see how that's bearish long term. I mean, it's probably bearish a little bit oil, just because maybe Iran pumps. Maybe there's a revolution, a new one. People power revolution. Who knows? But at least on Friday, like you did have vol. It was a mess, but like you said, it's kind of a bit of a rinse and repeat with this stuff in the Middle East. But overall, I think this would be net very positive for everybody. Probably maybe even a lot of Iranians, and just to kind of get, I don't know. I don't know how much that regime has done them any favors, but hopefully this would be better for everybody in the Middle East. But it definitely took a hard, they had to make some hard decisions here, but apparently, at least for right now, they look like the correct ones.
Yes, crazy stuff going on over there. Crazy stuff in our chat, too. One of our listeners has apparently been outed as your mother, Mr. Rock Lobster. And all the folks are piling on him now. So apparently Mr. Unlimited is your mother. And also, did you know that your mother loves to trade hymns? A degenerate hymns trader is Mama Lobster. So we're all learning something today here on the show. I did not know that about Mama Lobster. So I, too, learned something today out there. She loves to defend her sweet pudding when I give him a hard time on the show. And she loves slinging some hymns upside. So who knew? Who knew about Mama Lobster? We're all learning something today. Mr. Uncle Mike, same question for you. There are a few people in here pulling for you. A lot of people are saying, Uncle Mike, you got to lay off the orange. It's not working for you. What do you think about that, Uncle Mike?
Well, I mean, it's not what I was hoping for it to be when I choose it.
Yeah.
So I would think I would have the advantage on Andrew with sports, but apparently he has me with women's figure skating.
Peggy Fleming came out of nowhere.
And Boy Scouts. And
there hasn't been a lot of sport.
Yeah, there really is not. It's kind of
How
been
about a lacrosse question? Something.
Yeah, no 80s wrestling or football questions, Uncle Mike. So you're kind of out of your wheelhouse.
You'd think since March I would have some type of wrestling or football question in that category, but it just hasn't happened. So,
like, who is Hulk Hogan? Something like that. Who were the two members of the Mega Power? Something up your alley, but no.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely been. The odds have been stacked against me with this since I don't know the category, and the Rock Lobster doesn't understand such things. He's never had to endure what I'm enduring this year. So,
and you have been whooped twice by wrist wrestling, so that's your nemesis this year.
Oh, I hate wrist wrestling so much.
I can't believe he's gotten nailed twice on that question. Which, I would do a charity point. I'd give him a charity point from that one. Didn't I get a half on that though? I think I only got.
I think you did. I'll have to go back and check the standings out there. But yes, they have been officially tabulated. It was 6.5 to 3.5 coming into today. Now 7.5 to 3.5. Uncle Mike, you got some splaining to do. What's going on in the market today, sir?
Well, I think so. Markets are rallying, which is good for us bulls. But what I think is interesting right now is that oil spiked on Friday, which, of course, it's going to in a situation like what's happening in the Middle East. But it hasn't, the gap up hasn't quite filled yet, so to speak. So in other words, oil is down a little bit today, but it's not down. It's not back to the Thursday levels as of yet. So the oil buyers out there don't necessarily think that this is over, if you will. So I think that's something that we need to keep an eye on throughout this period. Would just be oil and then commodities in general. So with silver had not too much of a reaction on Friday for where it was with everything. And gold is the same way. So precious metals did not have any spike due to the big conflict. But I do think that that's something we need to continue to monitor as the situation goes further or goes nowhere, whatever way with which you want to look at. Bonds also did not have much of a reaction either. Primarily from what I'm seeing throughout this, the main reactions that we had are just the stock market as well as oil. Those are the main ones. So on there, it just seems that overall with markets, we're looking at this and that it really, while we are rallying today, on Friday, we really didn't have that much of an extreme reaction to begin with, in my opinion. I mean, we opened at 6,000 on Friday, and then we closed at 59.76. So 24 points or 23 points roughly is not that big of a move to where I would think, okay, this is something really horrible, awful, and bad. And the market at least didn't see it that way. So I think this is something to where at least the stock market is just definitely going to look at this and just say, who cares? So there's war in the Middle East. Not that I'm saying it's good by any means. It's bad, of course. No one wants fighting and war and that type of thing. But it's really not any real news. And the market's kind of dictating that. So that's what we're seeing at this point. We are past the earnings season, so it's going to be interesting to see what kind of pricing action we get in this marketplace from where we are. We're a little over 100 points off of the all-time highs in the S&P 500, but we are firmly above 6,000 again, at least for today anyway. So we'll see if we can continue to hold that mark. And looking at some individual names, of course, we got to mention now the big grudge match between Nvidia and Palantir. Palantir realized it was behind, and so they decided to rally 4% on the day. And so Palantir, it's 142, Nvidia at 145. So those two are continuing to duke it out, all because of the Mark Longo option block poll. So we do have that happening. And there's really no crazy tweets today. So we'll continue to watch things. But for right now, the market's up, and I'm not going to complain, at least about the market anyway.
Yeah, Palantir. We might have to start tracking the Palantir Nvidia ratio, Uncle Mike, because clearly there's a relationship there now. We have created it. And when Palantir falls behind, like it did, it was 12 points away from Nvidia. It's just going to whipsaw back up. We got to start playing that trade. What do you think, Uncle Mike? Should we start up a whole fund, just a Palantir Nvidia ARB fund? What do you think? You down?
That would be interesting, but it just goes to show that when someone or something is down 6 or 7 points, it can come back pretty darn quick.
Especially if the ticker is PLTR. They can do that in an afternoon if they feel like it out there. So yeah, popping hard today. Let's see, is the rest of the options market popping hard today from a volume perspective? You know, typically a robust Monday out of the gate. I mean, 1% is a decent move, but upside lately hasn't translated into a ton of paper in VIX land. Is that the case today? The answer is no. It seems like folks maybe busy taking off some of the vol hedges they put on for the weekend. Now that vol is collapsing, maybe monetizing if they were indeed playing a little bit of a vol fade going into the weekend. Whatever the case may be, VIX is definitely awake right now, north of 500,000 contracts already. It's been a little while since we could really say that on the Monday show. 519 to be precise. The ADV is only 663 out there, listeners. So 663, we might be there by the end of the show, listeners. So VIX looking hot, looking spicy. The big dog out there today, 35,000 of the June 20 halves. Those are opening, which is interesting, opening some upside today. So maybe some folks thinking the next leg up is coming, taking advantage of a little bit of a fire sale. I mean, if that's the case, you're opening for size 35,000 on the 20 halves. You got one session left pretty much, and then the print on Wednesday. So what are you rolling for there? You're rolling for some wild stuff to pop off tonight and tomorrow, I suppose. Either way, interesting stuff there. 34,000 for number 2 of the 20s. Those are not opening, so maybe we got to. Why are you rolling now? It seems like a weird time to be rolling contracts that are going the way of the dodo soon, but we've seen weirder things. Look at SPX. It lives almost its entire life in that one trading session contract. So different game these days. 25,000 for number 3 of our old friend, the SEP 20 puts. This is the one we were talking about not too long ago. We had a question of the week where we asked you, I think they were trading for around, here we go. They were trading for 238 last week. We said, would you like to, but they were part of a spread last week. I think they're still part of a spread today. But we said straight up, would you buy them or sell them? 55.6% of you wanted to buy them. 44.4% wanted to sell them. Well, if you wanted to trade them, buy them especially, then I guess you're a happy camper today, listeners, because they're back. SEP 20 puts going up again today, another 25,000 times. So that trade clearly not done. Also a spread today. Let's see, what is the other leg against these bad boys? It's the SEP 2022 put spread. Those puts, if you're wondering, going up for 223 today. So a little bit of a sale. If you liked them last week but didn't buy them, maybe today is your huckleberry. That's number 3. Number 4, 24,000 of the June 18 puts. And number 5, 20,000 of the 21 half calls. I forgot, Mr. Rock Lobster. Are you on the 16 puts or the 18 puts? What's your strike this time? I forgot.
I do have a death march on some 16s. I sold most of my 19s, though. I was disciplined for most of my 19s on Wednesday last week, right before everything ticked up. They got taken out, and I'm like, oh my gosh. And then I was regretting it for about 5 seconds, and I'm like, nope, I'm just going to let the sale happen. And then the stupid announcement came. So I wish I would have sold 100% of them. I only sold 80%. But most of my I have some 20s left, but a little bit of I was following the vol down pretty hard on Wednesday, and then of course the announcement happened. So I would be surprised if we got anywhere close to those levels. I mean, I take a 17 settle at this point. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. We were talking about that a few weeks ago. 16 seemed like maybe a bit of a bridge too far. In your defense, you probably realized that, I think. But the price was right. sometimes you can't win if you don't play, Mr. Rock Lobster, right?
That's true. And I mean, it was funny. Those things never got above a dime, really. Like, for whatever reason, the liquidity, like, yeah, you know what? We're not ready for 16. We're not ready for that 16. Hard to believe how, 16 is closer to the upper middle of the range than the lower end of the range. So, anyway, but not this year. Not this year.
Not this year, listeners. Did you have some now vestigial 16 puts? Well, we don't know. Anything can happen between now and a settlement. So maybe you got some now lottery tickets in your back pocket. We shall see. SPY looking spicy today as well. 5.5 million contracts on the tape already. Usually that's the kind of paper we see reserved for kind of a nice aggressive whipsaw day. We're down 1%, then we're unched, then we're up 1%, those kind of days. Today, just a nice 1+% to the upside, enough for 5.5 million contracts. 8.62 million is the ADV, so definitely on path to see that. Kind of interesting to see the strikes that were really active towards the end of the session, on Thursday and on Friday. We saw a lot of 60-45, 0 DTEs going up in the S right towards the close, and they went out slightly out. And then, of course, the action on Friday, and those were not in the conversation. So always fascinating to see what strikes people are gravitating to in the 0-day bonanza. Either way, today, a lot of paper, 5.5 million. The S, no slouch either, 2.35 million. The ADV, about 3.5 million right now. Small caps looking a little light, but not bad. They're still well on their way to their ADV. We've seen them lately, 750, 800,000 this time of the show. Today, 570. That may sound light, but the ADV is only 1.14 million. So they're on their way to that. And the Qs also hanging out pretty much right where we expect them this time of the show. 2.17 million. We usually expect somewhere in the ballpark of 2.25. And the ADV is 3.83 million. All right. To the single names we go. Is it hot? Is it spicy out there, listeners, on the single name front? The answer is well, let me tell you what. I will re-rack it right now because we are just at the threshold for respectability. Yes, we just crossed it as I was talking. So I can now say officially it is a respectable day, if only just barely, listeners. We just crossed the line of 250,000 contracts. That's our threshold of respectability, listeners. 252. That gets us to GameStop. GameStop, after selling off hard last week, getting a little bit of love back, up $1 today, nearly 5%, trading 23.18. GameStop, I was listening to some talk about them before the show. Someone was joking that it sounds like just your most generic tech bro is in charge of that company now. Hey, we're pivoting to crypto. How'd that work out for you? Oh, wait, now we're pivoting to collectible cards. They're saying the next thing's going to be, hey, here comes the big AI. We're pivoting all towards AI in game. They're trying to do whatever they can, obviously, to keep this buggy whip manufacturer afloat. It's the blockbuster video of the 21st century. They just don't know it yet. But kind of interesting out there. GameStop getting a little life back, but is this just the mother of all dead cat bounces? What can save GameStop? Either way today, number 10, 252 on the tape. Number 9, Intel, my old stomping grounds, 268 on the tape for them. Up about $0.75 or a little over 3, about 3.33%. Trading $20.81 today. Good for the number 9 spot. Number 8, the Amazonians looking hot, 215.5, up nearly $3.50 or about 1.6%. Amazon seems like they own everything now. The rights to streaming shows for Lord of the Rings. I think they own the full rights to the James Bond franchise now. So they own many things over there. Amazon, number 8, 334 on the tape, on top of getting your coffee to you in terms of, your pods next day, same day delivery. Amazon, number 8, 334. Number 7, good old Super Micro Computer Inc., aka SMCI. I haven't seen them in our top 10 in a little bit. It's been mostly SoFi for the S names. This week, or indeed today, it is SMCI 43.42, up nearly $2 or about 4.5% today. So a nice little pop for them out there. Interesting stuff. Looks like more buyers than sellers out there in SMCI. Number 7. Number 6, good old Meta Platforms hitting the 700 level. Not an all-time high. Looks like the all-time high was 740. So they have been north of the 700 handle in the past, but 701.5 right now, up $19.20, nearly 3%. Man, you know what? It's the same old playbook. Doubles down on AI commitment. Again, all you got to do is whisper these. That's what GameStop needs to do. Whisper the 2 letters. Bam. Huge pop. I joke it's, 20% for a smaller stock. In this case, it's 20 handles for Meta at about 3%. Still not a bad do, as the kids say. Either way. Number 6, Meta, 401,000 contracts on the tape. Number 5, it's the fruit company. Below the 200 level again, 197 3/4, up $1.25 today, or about 0.2%. Good for the number 5 spot, 500,000 contracts, almost exactly. Number 4, we were just talking about it. It's Palantir, 142 3/4, up 5 1/3, or nearly 4%. Man, I guess they got really mad that they were lagging behind in our poll because they're making up for lost time. Number 4, Palantir, 790 on the tape. I could pull them up, but it's just a bunch of YOLO call nonsense, listeners. So we'll spare ourselves that for today. Number 4, Palantir on the tape. Number 3, yes, I said number 3. It's Tesla. Getting kicked to the curb today. Tesla, 329.60, up 430 or 1.3%. How many 7.5 and 100 strike options are trading today? I don't know. We'll have to go find out. Those have been some of our trades of the year of late. Some of these prints we're seeing in Tesla, again, are reminiscent of the old days with a smattering of ridiculous upside nonsense. I mean, you're talking 7.5s with a day to go trading for a penny in Tesla. I mean, absurd things. 300-400 handle out of the money calls. Just wild times, listeners. 329 1/3 today, up $4 or 1.25%. Good for only the number 3 spot. A paltry number 3 for Tesla, 958,000. What could kick Tesla to the curb? I see our chat talking about this. They're like, what's up with this name? It's AMD today, listeners. 127.64, up $11.5, nearly 10%. Good for 1.14 million out here today. My goodness, looks like analysts are optimistic. Analyst upgrade, on renewed AI optimism. So today apparently is the day of renewed AI optimism. Everyone woke up this morning on Monday and said, you know what? We love AI again. Let's lift Meta and let's lift AMD on renewed AI optimism. Either way, it seems to be carrying AMD to some new lofty levels and 1.15 million contracts on the tape. Man, things are spicy. You can also say, Tesla might be using some of their AMD chips, says our chat, to power some of their AI. So not all Nvidia. So I guess that combo is ironically allowed them to kick Tesla to the curb today. And then the number 1 spot, you know what it is. It's Nvidia, 1.64 million. Looking kind of light for them today. 145 3/4, up 3 3/4 today. So they also got a little spooked that Palantir was catching up, listeners, because they're popping today nowhere near as much as Palantir. So right now, after being over a dozen points away, Palantir closing the gap, 142 3/4 versus 145 3/4. So we're exactly $3 apart now. That is closer than when we posted the follow-up poll a week and change ago. They were $6 apart then. Wow. Palantir, I think we need to start publishing that Palantir Nvidia ratio. Listen, there could be something to that. At the very least, let's make something to that. At the end of the day, all technical analysis is whether or not people use it, right? I've always joked it could be the apples and maple syrup indicator. It doesn't matter what the hell it is. If people actually follow it, it might have some validity. So we'll just make this a thing, listeners. The Palantir Nvidia indicator, the ratio. And hey, you folks got on it first because you're here on the network. All the fame and fortune and riches will be yours. And of course, Uncle Mike and mine, because we'll be running the fund there. This week on the earnings front, like we said, Oracle kind of marks the tail end of really the exciting stuff out there. We got Leonard Holmes on Monday. We got Kroger on Friday, if you like some supermarket vol, as well as CarMax and the Meatballs' favorite, Darden Restaurants. But it's always everyone's favorite. It's time for the Odd Block. So let's get to it.
It's time to break down the most interesting, unusual, and downright questionable options activity that's been identified by theoptionsinsider.com. It's time for the Odd Block.
All right, everybody, let's get weird. Let's get wild. Let's go to China. What do you say? for the odd block today. We got some China action here and a lot of ADRs. Let's kick things off. KE Holdings Inc., ticker symbol BEKE, BEKE. This is a Chinese real estate ADR here for housing transactions and services in China through its subsidiaries. The largest online real estate transaction platform in China. It's BEKE, up 19 and a quarter, up 3/4 of a buck. We have talked about this one before, but it's been quite a while. Let's see, on the year, a year ago, it was about 15 and a third. So it's up nearly $4 or about 25% on the year. So a decent year for them. That said, they did get here before. They got here back in October of last year. They got up to about $26, it looks like, in October. That was their high for the year. Then they sold off again in January down to $16 again. Then they rallied again mid-March, got up to about $25 before selling off April 8th. They got down to about $17.50 again. Rallied up April 24th, $22, and kind of drifting back now to where they are right now, 19 and a quarter. But it seems like, Mr. Rock Lobster, some folks are looking a little bit optimistic for the longer term here in BEKE. We first noticed the Jan 21. Somebody came in and said, Jan 21s, how are they? They got a $1.96 at 205, which 9-cent wide market, already a weird one, going all the way out to January in BEKE. Not the most active of names. The stock was 1905 at the time. They said, I'll pay 205 pretty much, 3,516 times. Then as we went back to look, we realized it was kind of a bit of a call palooza, Mr. Rock Lobster. These were the 21s in Jan that first caught our eye. They ended up going 21,500 times on the day. And that's not enough. The March 20s also trading for prices around 330 in blocks of 22 to 2,500 at a clip, ended up trading 44,000 times, Mr. Rock Lobster. Both of those strikes were opening. So, man, size opening, longer term upside paper in BEKE, Mr. Rock Lobster. A total of, as of the start of the show, 65,000 upside calls. Not a small trade, sir. Well, what's catching your eye? You like these? You down with a little upside in BEKE?
Chinese equities are just not the easiest to trade. However, I think from a pricing point of view, you got 48 volatility and a $19 stock. I don't think that's terrible. And if you're going to buy calls, long term is definitely the way to go. Plus, it also passing our sniff test where that those early option buyers are already up like 20, 30 cents right now. So somebody is climbing into the BEKE. Maybe this is an homage to Clarence Beeks, the famous sleuth or skull, the agent of change in Trading Places. He's the guy that stole the frozen concentrated orange juice. Actually, he never. He got it, but
was he the guy in the trench coat in the alley? Was that him?
Yes, he didn't get to quite make the delivery. He was sadly stuck in a cage with an ape for a while. So he had a rough New Year's. For anybody that doesn't understand that, Trading Places, a fine trading movie. And then it was funny because when people used to ask me what I do, I go, ever see Trading Places? And they're like, yeah. I go, well, kind of like what they're doing. They're like, what part of the movie?
The monkeys and the strippers and the trench coats in the alley and the FCOJ.
You did that too back then in the day. You didn't really care. You're just trading, living for the moment. But I would say, yeah, this BEKE is a not unreasonable purchase. I'm going to say not unreasonable, just from a strictly mathematics point of view. Implied option prices are year lows, so it would not surprise me if these calls, so they're already up money today, but if they don't make more money.
It is quite the sizable play, listeners. So yeah, if you're intrigued, looking for a sizable trade to keep an eye on here in Chinese real estate, not a thing we say very often here on the network. then maybe BEKE is your huckleberry. Either way, 65,000 contracts going up here. March 20s and Jan 21s. Interesting stuff. Let's keep going, listeners. Let's go out. We were talking about AMD being hot earlier, but we're not going there. We're switching the tickers around. We're going to ADM instead. Good old Archer Daniels Midland. I haven't talked about them in a while on the network either. 54.20 up to 20, or about 4.25% today. On the year, though, it's been a rough year for ADM. Off nearly $6, or about 10%. Their low actually came on April 8th. They were down to about 41 bucks or so in there. So they're up about 13.25 from that level, but still net on the year off about $6. And it looks like Mr. Rock Lobster got somebody maybe taking a nibble on a little bit of upside in ADM this morning as well. They came in and said, SEP doubles. How are they? So they're going out a bit of a ways. Not that wild on the strike, though. It's pretty much the at-the-money strike. They got 210 at 235, which makes much more sense than this wild BEKE market, 9 cents. Well, I'm guessing there was something open, and there were obviously a lot of contracts were going up, so there was probably something resting in the book that were an order that was resting that was tightening up that market. But SEP doubles in ADM. They got 210 at 235. They said, we will pay 235, good sir. 5,000 times. The stock was actually lower, substantially lower, about $1.25 lower. So they are passing the Rock Lobster's first sniff test of scoop your calls before the stock pops. And they also get an earnings between now and SEP expiration. Earnings on August 5th. So Mr. Rock Lobster, I think by definition, you have to like these because the stock has moved $1.25 in their favor. So they're already laughing all the way to the bank, and they still get an earnings in August, sir. What do you think?
All I can say is impressive, man, for ADM. When does ADM move this much? Like never. It pays and it pays a fair dividend too, like almost $2 a share, which is that's like pushing 4%, 54. So yeah, I think these calls are 3.5%, almost 3.7%. But I think these are generally a high dividend paying stock. You're not in it really for the call purchasing. But huge jump in the stock price. It almost feels like very odd. Very odd action in here. It wouldn't surprise me if can somebody take over ADM? Is that possible? Wow. $83 billion a year. The market cap is only $24 billion. So I'm just going to say that, again, interesting that somebody's coming in here and scooping it. Of course, they make a lot of stuff that people don't like anymore, like all those soy oil, all those, what are those seed oils and, all that kind of stuff. But giant food conglomerate. But at least right now, somebody's jumping into it. But yeah, I think those calls are very, very reasonable calls to buy out to September. No question about it. I mean, obviously they're already up 40% on them. So that's an easy win right there.
Yeah, Apple can buy them with the cash they have in their couch cushions for AMD as opposed to, I keep saying AMD, ADM. There we go. Yeah, but 26 billion, that's a rounding error to a lot of these companies these days. Let's go out. Let's keep it on the Chinese front to finish up here, listeners. Let's go out to BILI. Ticker symbol BILI, BILI. Sounds like an 80s song. This is an ADR, of course. This is effectively the Chinese equivalent of YouTube. 21.25, up $1.25, a little over 6% today. On the year, it's been a decent year, up $5.50 or 35%. I think most people would take that. It was 15.75 a year ago. That said, it got up to 31.75 back in October of last year. So it's got another $10 to go to the upside if you believe these charts. They sold off on April 8th to a little bit shy of $15. So it's had a nice roughly $6 run since then. So it's been a good little run. And Mr. Rock Lobster, once again, we're going out to January. Once again, we're going out to the 21 calls in the Chinese ADR. Maybe it's the same customer. They came in and said Jan 21s, this time in BILI. How are they? And they got a market of 375 at 390, so also decently tight all things considered. The stock was $21.19, so right around here when they quoted this. And they said, we'll trade them for $385 right off the offer, listeners, 2,039 times. So, Mr. Rock Lobster, if you love the BEKE, then I guess you got to love the BILI Jan 21s as well, sir. What say you?
Again, notice about these call buyers, you know, they're stepping into a little bit of duration here, right? Little duration, you know, 2 to 3 months, 3 to 6 months actually. You know, calls $2 to $3, looking at you know, all of a sudden they're looking at a market that can rally a little bit. Yeah, I don't think the 21s are unreasonable, though they're a little juicier than some of the other ones that we have. 50 vol, but not again, these are not unreasonable calls. And once again, they're up money on day one. So it's a pretty bullish day overall. I mean, market up. So obviously I'm not saying anything, you know, super intelligent there, but you know, folks are going out and buying calls. So I guess they're getting long China. What? Because Iran's in decline. So I guess you get long China. But again, reasonable option prices and reasonable hold times.
Worth noting on these, listeners, a total of 8,700 of these have traded today, and nearly 17,000 of the March 22s, which, if that sounds familiar, listeners, the March and Jan upside is pretty much the exact same thing we were seeing in BEKE. So I'd be very surprised if these weren't at least inspired by each other prints. How often do we see size upside prints going up around the same time, same exact duration, similar strikes? Not exactly the same business models, obviously. You could take some issue there, I suppose. But at the end of the day, it's like some folks, at least, are pretty bullish on China. But are you bullish on Uncle Mike after his horrific, some might say deeply embarrassing losing streak? I guess we'll find out. It is time for the strategy block.
It's time to dispense options, wit, wisdom, and education. It's time for the strategy block.
All right, Uncle Mike, let's see if you can redeem yourself here with a little bit of strategy. What you got for us this week?
A rare mute.
Oh no,
Mike.
He's not adding to his legacy right now. That's for sure.
The mute button.
Oh wow, Uncle Mike! When it rains, it pours, sir.
It's just, I mean, it's something else. It is just something else. I mean, Rock Lobster's. He's actually gotten into my software somehow and hitting the mute button on me. I mean, it's just something else.
He's in your head. He's living rent free in your head now, sir.
He's living rent free in my head. Wow. Anyway, today what I want to talk about, this is going to be a 2-part strategy block series. And we're going to talk about the exciting thing called the box spread. And what I want to go through is how it's actually used in the option market and ways with which next week we'll talk about how you can use it for financing in certain ways. So let's say that you're looking for a fixed income alternative and you like the idea of government treasuries, but you want to do something that might outperform it a little bit, and then maybe you want to get a little bit better tax treatment on it. Well, there you have the box spread. So something with which you can do is, and I'm just making up some numbers right now. I'm not in this position. I'm not endorsing this position. This is just sheerly for illustration purposes only. Let's say that theoretically you bought the 5,500 call on the SPX and you sold the 6,500 call on the SPX. Well, you'd have a long call spread. Now, by doing that, that's not guaranteed by any means. That's just a good old-fashioned option spread. But let's say at the same time, what you did is you bought the 6,500 put and sold the 5,500 put. Well, that's just a good old-fashioned long put spread. Well, if you combine them together, then what you're doing is you're just taking the opposite side of each trade, essentially creating a trade that you're not going to really make, you're going to lose on one and win on the other and vice versa. But ultimately, when you're doing that, there is a spread that's involved. And if you were to do a box spread, what's going to happen is you're going to get a guaranteed rate of return, most likely. And you can enter the trade as a box spread on your trading platform. And this is a trade to where if you get the right limit order, which you likely will, you are guaranteed to make money. Now, yes, I actually said that. You're guaranteed to make money on a box spread. However, you're not going to make that much money. Don't get too excited. Purpose of a box spread, if you are long the box spread, is twofold. The first reason is that oftentimes, if you get filled at a good price, you can usually get maybe 10, 20 basis points above what you would get in a government treasury of the same time frame. So if you're going to buy a one-year government treasury at, let's say, a 4% interest rate, you might be able to get 4.2% on a box spread. Woohoo! Very exciting. That's one way of looking at it. However, this is where it can get exciting. If you're doing it on a 1256 contract and you're doing it outside of your IRA, then in a government treasury, there can be some tax advantages to them. Not going to get into that right now, but you would get on a box spread 60-40 tax treatment. So you don't get the same backing of the U.S. federal government, but you would still get the backing of the U.S. option market. And that's pretty good, actually. And you could get 1256 tax treatment on a short-term treasury-like investment. And those are the two reasons with which you would typically look to do a long box spread. Now, next week, you might be asking, well, Mike, that sounds interesting, but who would take the other side of that trade? Well, that would be someone that's interested in a short box spread. And that is what we are going to discuss next week on the Strategy Block. Stay tuned, everybody.
Look at you with the hot box spread tease. Watch out. Box spreads get surprisingly contentious. When we talked about them on the network a few years ago, I was surprised at the uproar they engendered from the listening audience out there. By the way, Uncle Mike, you are prompting some waves of pity of your own now in the chat, sir. So there you go. They're saying we need Uncle Mike's mom in the chat to support him, sir. So what do you think?
It's not pity. They just know that I am the people's champ. I'm the people's champ, and I still got the belts. You don't like it? I don't care.
He does have the belt for now. Will he still have it at the end of the year is the question, listeners. And let's see what we got going on at the end of the show. It is time to go around the block.
It's time to tell you what we'll be watching on our trading screens until the next episode. It's time for Around the Block.
All right, everybody, welcome to Around the Block, the portion of the show where we tell you what we're keeping an eye on until our next episode, which will be next Monday. No Thursday episode this week, thanks to the holiday. We are all off. S&P coming in at the end of the show, still up almost 1%. The Dow up about 0.8%. NASDAQ up about 1.5%. And the VIX right around 19 even, so down slightly, down about 1/4 of a point from where it was at the start of the show. So we're mostly right around, slightly higher than we were at the start of the show. Vol obviously coming in a little bit. I mentioned our question of the week at the top of the show. We said the vol impact of the Middle East conflict already appears to be fading. Is this it? Or is this just the calm before the storm? Quite simply, will this conflict still be impacting VIX and the markets 1 month from now? And right now, 2/3 of you say yes, say we're not done with this. Exactly 2/3, 66.7%. It just ticked. 33.3% say no. Let's go around the horn, Mr. Rock Lobster. What are you keeping an eye on until our next show next Monday? No show on Thursday, sir.
Well, we've got the Fed. The Fed tells us that they're not going to lower rates this Friday, this Wednesday. I think that's the biggest thing. And, earnings season is winding down, but right now, stocks are looking a little more buoyant, I have to say.
And where should folks go if they want more Rock Lobster goodness in their lives, sir?
Oh, yeah. If you want to look at these long-term option contracts, I'm doing it in the Flash 5, looking at long-term open interest, long-term option activity, leading to long-term gains. So, yeah, go 888-TRADE-01, and I'm going live with that tomorrow.
Are you trading leaps now? Is that your hot new thing?
I do use them in lieu of stock, yeah.
Oh.
So when I'm like, okay, when I want to tiptoe into some stock, I mean, these are all pretty good names, but I mean, the reality is, you know, if you're in a bull market, options like a bull market. I don't know how else to say it. Don't overcomplicate it.
There you go. If you want to nibble on some leaps with the rock lobster, head on over to the land of the pit. And Mr. Uncle Mike, what are you keeping an eye on till the Monday show, where maybe you'll be able to get a point back from the rock lobster? And then where should folks go if they want more Uncle Mike goodness in their lives?
Continuing to watch the 6,000 level, watching social media and tweets from our president, watching oil, just out of curiosity to see how that reacts, watching bond yields to see if the bonds have anything to say about what's happening. And if you would like to learn more and potentially work with a financial advisor who delves in the option product, go to stcharleswealth.com and book an appointment with me. Would love to have a conversation with any of our listeners.
There you go. stcharleswealth.com, the place to go to kick the tires and light the fires. That's going to do it for us on the old OB today. Not going to do it for us on the network, though. Back in a little bit with our good buddy, Mr. Bill, to talk all things crypto out there in the market. So join us. Should be fun. Probably talk a little traditional markets as well. Mr. Bill likes that kind of thing. So all sorts of fun to be had. You want to talk Bitcoin, ETH, Shiba, a little XRP, all the vol, the skew, the madness, maybe some wild. He's always got some wild altcoin burning up his wallet as well. He likes to share with you folks. So should be a good time. Join us on the Crypto Rundown. Back again tomorrow for all you pro folks for a little bit of the old pro Q&A with our good buddy Scott Nations. He hasn't been on in a little bit. You folks always like picking his brain. So if you haven't gotten your vol questions in yet for him and you're hanging out, I should say, in the pro, then by all means, get it going because we're always fully subscribed with questions for him whenever he joins us. If you want to participate and get everything else we've done, including the Vol Deathmatch, the optionsinsider.com/pro is the place to go to learn more. Wednesday, of course, our doubleheader of Options Bootcamp, as well as the Futures Rundown. Off again on Thursday. Friday Vol Views and some oddities for the pro folks. And we're back again next Monday, trivia card in hand, for another episode of the Option Block. Have a great holiday and stay safe out there, everybody.
You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com.